Hi everyone, hope you're doing well. A while ago, you submitted a few questions on Instagram, and then I completely forgot to answer them. So recently I asked you again, both on Instagram and on the YouTube community post, for some questions that you would like for me to answer in one of these videos, particularly because there are a lot of new people here. So if you're one of those people, hi! Welcome. Thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate you. I guess the point of a few of these is for you to get to know me a bit better, which always feels so strange to me. It sounds like a paradox, right? As someone who makes content on the internet, I always find it strange when people are actually genuinely curious about who you are in your life, and it does feel strange to me, but at the same time it's very heartwarming. So once again, thank you all so much for being here, and thank you to everyone who submitted questions. I'm gonna try and answer most of them. A few I actually compiled a little bit because we had a few similar ones, so let's get started. I already have my tea ready. Today we have lemon and ginger, and it is delicious. So get comfy as well, grab your favorite drink, your favorite snack, and let's chat a little bit. A common question that I got, and similar ones, was what I do for work or if YouTube is my job. To answer that one first, it is not. I don't think I will ever get to a point where I can call YouTube my job, not even as a part-time thing. It's just something that I really love doing. It doesn't really bring me a lot of money. The only thing that I do earn, which is slightly connected to YouTube, is what I have from Patreon, which is amazing in itself, of course. But as for this channel, yes, I don't think it will ever get to a place where I will call this a job. I don't even have that ambition at all. And even if it did get to a point where I could earn some money out of this, I would never make it my only source of income. I like to do multiple activities anyway, so it's not, and I don't think it will ever be. So what I do mainly is I am a freelancer video editor. So I do edit videos for other content creators, and I absolutely love it. And I also am a tutor for both English and Portuguese. I teach pretty much every single age, but my students are usually in their, well, between 15 and 18 years old, so they need to study for their exams and everything. This means that my routine looks different every day because I like to do a lot of creative activities, which also includes this job as a freelancer, but it also can be just filled of classes throughout the entire day. It really depends. It's very different each day, and that's something that I actually love because I don't really do well with having just the one job to do every single day. I tried that once and it didn't go well at all. So if it comes to a point in my life where I have to do that, I think I will be very sad. Right now I love what I do and I'm very grateful for that. Lots of questions concerning music as well. A lot of variations. We have when did you first notice that you loved music so much, or how I came to love music so much. Favorite genres, favorite songs. I love all of these questions about music. If you're new here, it is something that I mentioned quite frequently because music is, I would say, my biggest passion. It was my first love and I still adore it to pieces. I would never be able to live a fulfilled, happy life without music in it. That sounds incredibly empty and sad to me. I first started loving music when I was a little kid. I must have been like 1 or 2 years old. My parents love music as well, so it's just something that has always been present at our household, and I'm very, very grateful for that. I've mentioned this before, I think, but one of the songs that I relate to the most is Thank You for the Music by ABBA, where she sings that she was a dancer before she could walk and a singer before she could talk. And that's exactly how I feel. Nowadays, I also sing. I am a soprano. I sing classic music / opera and everything in between, and I adore it. Favorite song, it is impossible for me to say, but the genre that I tend to go with the most every single day is soundtracks, and we are talking about musicals, movies, games, anything really. I adore soundtracks, and I love to imagine my routine, my everyday routine, with a different song playing in the background all the time. Depending on what I'm doing and my mood, I always imagine the perfect song to go with it. My current obsession is the soundtrack from A Plague Tale, which is the most recent game that I finished and loved. That soundtrack has been playing on loop for the past 2 weeks, I would say. It is absolutely stunning. I love it so much. But yes, any soundtrack from stories that I love makes me so happy. Favorite musicals, I will always have a special place in my heart for Les Mis and The Phantom of the Opera, and also My Fair Lady, actually, because it was the very first musical that I've ever seen. I feel like that was a turning point in my life, because then again, it was the first time that I actually went outside and saw a musical on stage. And it was just a mind-blowing experience. I still remember it vividly. I think I was 5 years old or something. And my heart was exploding with so many emotions at the same time. It was absolutely magical. Someone also asked me about recent movie recommendations or recent movies that I saw and loved. And unfortunately, I don't think I have any recommendations at the moment. I am giving this question back because I would love for someone to recommend me an incredible movie that they saw recently, because I feel like all the recent ones that I've seen are very forgettable. Not bad necessarily, but I can't seem to remember watching an incredible movie recently. So if you have any recommendations, I would love to know. But I actually did just finish watching a TV show, which I feel like a lot of people are watching at the moment, but it is called Nobody Wants This. It is so sweet. It has its flaws, obviously. It is a bit silly sometimes, but overall, I think it genuinely is a beautiful love story that touches so many important things as well when it comes to communication and empathy, and I genuinely loved it. I just randomly decided to watch it one day and I binged the entire thing. So that's my recommendation if you need something sweet and cozy to watch during this autumn season. What tea flavor are you loving for now? Well, a lot of them. I adore tea so much. Well, this current one, lemon and ginger, is perfect. My go-to for this season is almost always cinnamon roll. And we are back at the time where I usually go for orange with cinnamon, which I still haven't, and I need to fix that. So I will go with those for now, but there are so many. What is your height, zodiac, and star signs? Oh gosh, I am awful at those things. Well, my height, I am 170 centimeters. I'm not sure how that translates into other measurements, but that's it. And I am a Taurus. My birthday is on May 3rd, so I hear that's an earth sign, and I can pretty much relate to that for sure. Although usually when I see descriptions of Taurus people, they can be a bit mean, and I'm not sure if I relate completely to those descriptions, so unfortunately I don't know any more details about that. But if you are some sort of an expert, or if you really love these topics, I would love to know what you think about Taurus, because I feel like we are a bit misrepresented sometimes. Favorite anime and manga? I haven't really watched anime in so long, so if you have any recommendations, please let me know. My current favorite manga is A Man and His Cat. I have been slowly getting through it, and it's not that the story is anything mind-blowing or very unique at all, but it's just the sweetest thing. I mean, it is about an older cat who was adopted by an older man, and they become best friends, and it is the most wholesome story and exactly what I need nowadays. So that's my current favorites. My oldest favorites, I guess, would be Sailor Moon and Pokemon, which, yes, they are part of a lot of people's childhoods, so maybe that's an easy answer. But it is true for me. I have always wanted to be part of that team, part of the magical girls, and transform myself into Sailor something. I think my favorites were Sailor Mercury and Sailor Jupiter, so I wish I could be like them. And of course, I also wanted to be a Pokemon carer. Actually, I wanted to take care of Pokemons rather than just training them and fight. But I wanted to own all of them and have a cute big family. I also love Naruto and Death Note, for instance. I have so many others on my list, so if you have recommendations, please let me know. I would love to hear them. What type of video games do you play? I love this question. Gaming is also one of my biggest passions. I have been playing since I was a kid. Then I took a big break for some reason, and now I'm finally back to it. I love cinematic games, so those where you follow a specific character or characters and it feels like you are watching a movie or a show. So think The Last of Us, which is my favorite, both part 1 and 2. Recently A Plague Tale, as I mentioned. God of War is amazing as well. I've recently played Stray, where you get to be a cat. I am trying to get more into open world stories, so like God of War or Horizon or Ghost of Tsushima or Red Dead Redemption. I still need to play most of those, and they are still a bit intimidating to me, but I will not give up. I do want to give them a fair try. But yes, most of them, games like The Last of Us, where you get to connect with the character and really feel like you are lost in the story, watching a movie unfold, and then getting your heart broken by the end. It's amazing. I adore it so much. We have a lot of bookish questions as well, such as recent book recommendations or books that I cannot get my mind off recently. And those are questions which I will be answering in the next part. So stay tuned for that. But there's another one which is asking what I'm currently reading. And I've actually started this one very recently, so this is perfect. And that's We Are the Weather, Saving the Planet Begins at Breakfast by Jonathan Safran Foer, which is also the author of Eating Animals. And that's another book that I have on my radar for sure. I love the very beginning of this book where it says, "We are concerned, we are in trouble, we are the solution." I love these books which talk about climate change in a very realistic and warning way, as it should, but they also give you a hopeful message saying that we are part of the problem, so we are also the solution to it. And there's actually a lot we can do, just small actions that we can take every single day to make the world a better place. And I just love reading these books. They are usually a lot. They have a lot of information. I am already underlining so many things. And I did just start it, so I'm about 8 pages in, but I'm already enjoying it a lot. I think this will be a very good book for me to read here and there. Usually with these books, I tend to read a bit slowly and take my time, but it looks amazing so far. Least favorite genres when it comes to reading. My least favorite so far, at least out of the ones that I've actually actively tried, is romance. And I'm not sure if that's just contemporary romance, but in fact, I still haven't found a book from that genre that I actually enjoy. Some of them I think are okay-ish, but usually they're not really my cup of tea, and I'm not sure if that's because I still haven't found the right author for me, because I do love romance. I do love a good love story, but in book form, and especially contemporary, I think, I really haven't found any that I actually love. On a more serious note, I also got a question about how to deal with toxic friendships. There are people out there who could answer this much better than I can, of course, but speaking from experience, I think the first step is to love yourself and really be confident as to what you are looking for in a relationship. And this applies to friendships, romantic partners, family as well. You really need to make sure to respect and love yourself in the first place so you're able to set necessary boundaries, because no matter how much we love someone, respect needs to come first if you're going to have an healthy relationship. And if these friends aren't doing that to you, obviously it depends on what's happening specifically, but if you feel like you have communicated and told them what you feel like it's going wrong and why you feel like it is toxic, and there doesn't seem to be a compromising solution where everybody feels respected and safe, then maybe the best thing you can do is to walk away, unfortunately. People come and go, that's just part of life, and I feel like that's a very painful thing that people don't really talk about enough. I feel like when it comes to romantic relationships, it's more usual for people to really understand how hard that is. But when it comes to friendships, I feel like it's heartbreaking when you feel like you have to end that relationship, or at least change it a lot in order for it to work. But then again, you would also have to ask if that's even a friendship, you know? I think the first and most important thing you need to feel with someone is to feel safe and loved for who you are, with all the necessary boundaries that come with any relationship, really. So I'm sorry that you are struggling with this. It is very hard. The first step for me is always to try and communicate that problem and see if there is anything that can be done about it, because there are a lot of reasons, you know, for things to go wrong. Maybe people are in a position in their lives where they are struggling as well with their own problems and they are still trying to figure that out. And that might be harming others in the process, even if they don't realize it, which is also a different problem. So try and find out what exactly is going on, talk about it, and if the situation doesn't seem to change, then you need to love yourself and respect yourself exactly as you deserve and set boundaries. that is very much needed in every single aspect of life. So I hope that helped. It was a bit vague, of course, because I think each situation asks for a different solution, probably because people are all different. We are all going through so many different things at once, so it's hard to give a straight answer. Mainly, I hope you can find it in yourself to see how amazing you are and how worthy of love and respect you are. That's the first step, I feel like, for anything really. So if you aren't there already, I'm sure you can do it. I'm sure you'll get there, and I hope it's sooner than later. So you can also thrive and be your amazing self around the right people. And finally, a very cute question that I also got 2 or 3 times is, what's making you happy lately? At this moment, 2 main things. First is the fact that in a few days I will take a little break. I will have a small vacation just for the weekend really, but I will be traveling to Denmark, which is a place where I've never been before, and I'm very intrigued by it. It looks so beautiful, and I also hear the weather will be perfect for autumn. It will actually be cold and a bit rainy. It's also known for the fairy tales, of course, and it looks so beautiful from all the pictures that I've seen, so I'm very much looking forward to that. But also, of course, the fact that we are finally having some rainy days. Even though it is still hotter than I would like, we are having a lot of rain. And it was very much needed. I love waking up to the sound of rain, which is what happened today, actually. And I feel like it's going to happen a lot more frequently now. So very happy about that as well. Oh, and also the fact that I will finally be able to light my autumnal candles. They smell so nice, and I keep waiting for this time of the year to finally use them. And now the time has come. It's perfect. Feel free to share what has been making you happy lately as well. I would love to hear about that. Whatever it is that you'd like to share, let's have a wholesome comment section. We always do, because you are the best. But anyway, if you'd like to share 1 or 2 things that have been bringing you joy lately, I would love to hear. Let's move on to answering some bookish questions, specifically from bookish tags. I'll do a bit of a mixture between the finally fall and the end of the year book tag to do a bit of a check-in at this point of the year, starting with an autumnal book that you might have to transition into the end of the year. And I think I do. I immediately thought of The Name of the Wind by Patrick Rothfuss. This is a book that I have been meaning to read for ages, and hopefully it will happen soon. The cover says it all to me. It is very beautiful and it does scream fall. The main reason why I want to read this is because supposedly it has beautiful descriptions of music. So I am aware the series is not finished. It probably never will be, or maybe it will one day, but it doesn't really bother me. So I am truly looking forward to reading this. It is absolutely beautiful and it does look perfect for this season as well. There's a question about recommending beautifully written books, which also deal with sensitive topics such as grief or anything similar. And I decided to grab a little pile of 3 books that I've read this year that have stuck with me in some way or another. They are all beautifully written, and I would consider pretty much all of them to be gloomy enough for the autumnal season, and they also deal with hard topics such as that one. You could argue that they all deal with grief, but in a different manner, which I really like as well. So to start off, we have Stoner by John Williams. This is a book that we read for the Whimsical Readers Book Club. I believe all of us ended up enjoying it, but yes, I certainly did. And this is one of those which I feel like it's hard to recommend because I see a lot of people who could potentially hate it. It follows an English teacher called William Stoner who is very lost in his life, and he does make some questionable decisions here and there, but he's also questioning the meaning of his life and the change he can make and how to move in this messy world while trying to stand up for what he believes in, but also struggling with the fact that overall he's a very passive person, so usually he does not stand up for himself or other people for many different reasons. A lot of things happen in his life actually, despite the book being quite slow in that sense, because it does follow his day-to-day life and how he deals with different circumstances, him interacting with the students and loved ones and his boss and everything. I do find it interesting how the book questions morality even, and justice and respect and what all of that means, while we follow his life chapters and how they can all change or they can all remain the same, and how there's a bit of a butterfly effect depending on our actions and decisions. It is a true character study, so if you are not a character-driven person, I would not recommend this one up front. It's very quiet and it really lingers on that quietness and self-doubt as well. It also lingers on silence and solitude, and because of that I find it a bit romantic in a way, but it is also about grief, and mainly the grief of losing yourself in this world, which is one of the topics that I like the most, honestly. It also mentions education and what its role should be, how we should navigate the system in order to really defend knowledge and what that really means, how to make people think instead of just memorizing things, and how the system is made to maybe benefit the people who do not really deserve it because they cheat, they lie, they don't really care or acknowledge the privilege they have sometimes for just being in a certain place with certain people with the huge opportunity of learning. But then again, it also questions the pressure of being in that place and whether or not they really want to actually be there. So there's a lot going on here, no matter how truly quiet and silent this book is, and very slow as well. It is also very relatable in some aspects, and no matter how quiet the world around us might be, our brains just can speak so loudly, and that's what the book is about. So I really enjoyed it and it did stick with me. I don't love everything about it. I did have some issues with a few plot lines here, but overall I think it is a beautiful novel and I would certainly recommend it for dark, gloomy days during autumn. Speaking of gloomy, I also read what I feel like is a very underrated book. Maybe I'm wrong about that, but we have Burial Rites by Anna Kent. This is inspired by a real story. We mainly follow Agnes, who, along with two other people, is convicted for the murder of three men, I don't exactly remember. But yes, she's been convicted for the murder of someone. And the entire novel really is not really about whether or not she did it, it's about the perception of the people around her and the consequences of that. She's forced to go and live with a family in a small farm, and we really follow, again, their day-to-day life and their interactions from the perspective of the family who is now forced to live with someone who supposedly committed murder. And we also follow Agnes' perspective and her frustration and pain while living there and not being exactly accepted and welcomed in the house. Despite having a few nitpicks with this book, mainly a few plot details that didn't really make sense to me, I love the overall theme of this book, which is how perception, gossip, things people hear and comment on, how that can shape and completely distort reality, and then again how that affects the person who is actually involved in that situation. It's really sad, and once again it's not really about, the book doesn't focus on that answer or whether or not she did it, so it can be a bit challenging at first to read it from the perspective of someone who probably did it, and you're never entirely sure, but then you start hearing things from her perspective and her experience, and it's just heartbreaking. Plus it is set in Iceland, so it feels very cold sometimes. It's very atmospheric in tone, so it actually feels like you are there at the farm, feeling the breeze outside, and it's beautiful for that as well, and very engaging, certainly. It's very complicated to speak about this book because then again, it touches on a lot of sensitive topics, but it is about human relationships and how what you hear and from whom you hear it can change everything when maybe it shouldn't. So again, it raises a lot of questions, just like Stoner. And just like Little by Edward Carey. This once again we did read for the Whimsical Readers Book Club. I ended up picking this book at the time because I did hear recommendations here and there here on BookTube. I still think this is a bit underrated. It is such a unique book. I had never read anything like this one. It follows mainly the origins of the person who then became Madame Tussaud, her fascination with the human body and what that even means. This book asks a lot of questions again, but mainly about what it means to be a person, what it means to be human, and whether or not it is legitimate to touch and study the human body for scientific purposes or any other. And then when it comes to exposing the person on, say, a museum or an exhibition of some sorts, if that itself also should have anything to do with moral values, if it should consider who that person was and what they did when they were alive. Mary becomes fascinating by the art of wax modeling, and she's very criticized because of it. It's really interesting. I'm doing a terrible job describing it, but it's really good. It questions what life and death means and what the human body physically represents, the fact that we are all the same inside, despite the person that we end up becoming on the outside and in society. It just raises a lot of natural and scientific and social and economical issues, and it's fascinating. I had never read anything like this. It gets very technical at some points when it comes to the human figure, but I don't think it's too much at all. In fact, it adds to the story. Sometimes you have illustrations of heads, for instance, while Mary is studying them and trying to look for meaning in them. Or maybe it's the people around her who give them meaning. But that's the question, isn't it? Once the person is not alive anymore, how legitimate is it to use their bodies for scientific purposes? And then with that comes a whole other range of questions. So these are my main 3 recommendations for you to read this autumn. I had a great time with them for different reasons. I don't think any of them are all-time favorites. I don't think that's the case, but they're definitely books that remain with me so far, and I would be willing to reread each one of them. Mainly, I would say Stoner and Little. I would advise you to read them if this sounds interesting to you, of course, and if you've read them, please let me know. I would love to hear what you thought. A book that could still shock me and become a favorite. So the way I interpret this question is there's some books that I want to read and I am really excited about reading them, but I'm not necessarily having the highest expectations for them. I don't expect them to be favorites. I mean, if they do, that's great, but I'm not exactly expecting it. And the main example I have here is a book that I've also been meaning to read for ages, and it has a lot of mixed reviews. I still don't know what to expect from this. So I'm not sure where I will land. I don't think it will be a favorite at all. So if it does, it will shock me, I guess. And that book is The Secret History by Donna Tartt. If you talk about dark academia, this is kind of your staple and I still haven't read it. I feel like the main reason why I haven't read it is, well, I have 2. First one being because dark academia in theory is something that I love, but I still haven't found what is considered to be a dark academia book that I've really loved. That's never happened. I'm still in the look for it. Now, granted, I haven't read a lot of them, but the ones I did were not that great for me. I mean, there are exceptions, but none of them have been favorites. None of them I absolutely loved. So I'm not sure if it will be the case for this one. Also because, second reason, I did read The Goldfinch by the same author, and it wasn't for me. I didn't really like it. So I'm certainly intrigued. This, I think, is about a group of friends who are supposedly very pretentious, and exactly, a group of eccentric misfits at an elite New England college discover a way of thinking and living that is very distant from their contemporaries. So that sounds very fun to me. It's a book that I am willing to, read and hopefully fall in love with, but all the negative reviews about this one are kind of hilarious, and I see their point. So I don't know where we will stay with this one, but I'm excited. I'm very excited to find out. So, and then of course we have the very legitimate question where usually people answer all of them. And yes, I agree. But basically, what are 3 books that you are still expecting to read by the end of the year? And yes, so many of them, all of them. But I decided to pick 3 classics that I have mentioned previously and that I'm still hoping that I will somehow fit them in this year, and we'll see if that happens. So first of all, we have Mansfield Park by Jane Austen. As you can see, I have some tabs here because at the time, years ago, I was trying to read it and I was trying to kind of select a number of pages per day for me to read it, but then it just didn't happen, so we are trying again. This is my only complete Jane Austen left for me to read, which is very sad, but I do plan to reread all of them eventually, because they're just wonderful. And based on the descriptions of this book, I think I will love the protagonist here. Apparently she's not your usual Jane Austen protagonist. She is more of an introvert and more discreet, and I'm so here for that. I'm hoping to love her. I'm hoping to love the book. I don't actually know much about the story because whenever this book is mentioned, I feel like a lot of people talk about her and not necessarily the plot. But I'm fine with that. It's Jane Austen, so I'm pretty sure I'm going to love this one. I really hope I do. The other one I have is Beloved by Toni Morrison. So many people recommended this one to me, especially my friend Milena. And then again, it's one of those that I've been meaning to read for the longest time, mainly because of her. Unspeakable things happen to Seth at Sweet Home, the farm where she lived as a slave for so many years until she escaped to Ohio. Her new life is full of hope, but 18 years later, she is still not free. Her new home is not only haunted by the memories of her past, but also by the ghost of her baby, who died nameless and whose tombstone is engraved with the single word, Beloved. So this looks great for autumn. I knew this had a bit of a twist to it, and what excuse do I have for not reading this book? No excuses, no excuses. It's just a matter of finding the right mood. I'm an extreme mood reader. Even if I'm loving a book, sometimes I just stop in the middle of it. So yes, I've discussed that previously, but it still remains true. I need to be in the right mindset to read certain things. If you're like me, you also feel a certain pressure whenever you read a friend's favorite because you really want to love it. But I have a feeling I will. So hopefully this will go well. And finally, of course, with the last one, all that I'm saying for the other 2 applies to this one, and it is also a friend's favorite, and that's The Count of Monte Cristo by Alexandre Dumas. Like, what am I doing? I've been meaning to read this one for so long. It's a revenge story. I think this poor guy was imprisoned because he was betrayed by his friend. I want to know more about that. It sounds amazing, and I keep hearing it's very well written, very engaging, and yes, it is a beast, but apparently it doesn't really feel like a long book because it just grabs you and never lets go. So yes, again, what can I say? Am I excited for this one? Yes. This wouldn't shock me if it became a favorite. It's one of those books where I have extremely high expectations for. So this, there's that added pressure of, I really hope I love this one because of that, and also because it is some of my friends' favorites. So yes, when it comes to these 3 books, I really hope we can somehow fit all of them. I'm still hopeful. I know it's October already, but we'll forget about that for a while. I feel like lately I have been prioritizing reading a little bit, which makes me very happy after going through a huge slump of years, not really wanting to read that much. I think it was 2 or 3 years that I was really struggling. Now I'm getting back to it, and not only reading but also filming as well and gaming. I feel like I'm getting back to some of my passions, and that makes me very happy. But that comes with the problem, which is a good problem, which is to try and balance the time that I have for all of them. So that's why I feel like all of them are getting more attention from me, which is great, but that also means that I might take more time to do each one of them. But that's okay. I think that's great. So these are some of my reading plans and recommendations. I would love to hear yours as well. How is October going for you all so far? I would love to know, because September just completely flew by. I feel like I blinked and we are in October, which is a month that I adore, don't get me wrong, but September, where did it go? I'm not sure. Anyway, everyone, I want to thank you all for watching this video. Thank you so much for being here. I really hope you're having a great day, a great week, a great cozy season. And with that said, I am, as always, sending you a big hug, and I will see you very soon, either on a video or some reading sprints. Who knows? Bye, everyone!